Most people think lying is about deception, but psychology shows it's often about protection. We lie not because we want to hurt others, but because our brain is trying to keep us safe. Imagine this: you tell a friend how you really feel about something, and you're afraid they'll judge you. That fear triggers a response in your brain that's stronger than logic. You might find yourself saying, "I'm fine," when you're actually stressed, or exaggerating a story to seem more impressive. These aren't conscious manipulations, they're survival strategies. Have you ever wondered why people often tell little lies, even when it doesn't really matter? Maybe someone says they enjoyed a meal, even though it was terrible. Or a coworker tells their boss everything is on track, even if it's not. At first glance, these seem harmless, but the psychology behind them is fascinating. Every time we lie, even a tiny one, our brain is weighing risk versus reward, protecting us from potential embarrassment or rejection. And here's something surprising. Your brain literally reacts to social rejection like it reacts to physical pain. That's why the fear of being judged can feel so intense. Think about your last conversation where you held back your true feelings. Maybe you nodded along to agree with a group opinion you didn't actually share, or said yes to plans you didn't want to attend. That's not just politeness. It's your brain avoiding conflict. And here's the interesting part. The more you do it, the more natural it feels. Your brain stores it as a coping mechanism, and over time, lying becomes almost automatic. Now, consider identity. People lie not only to avoid conflict, but also to protect how they see themselves. You might tell a story that makes you sound braver, smarter, or more confident than you actually felt. Maybe you tell a friend about an accomplishment and leave out the struggles. Or you post pictures on social media that make your life look perfect. Psychology calls this identity protection. We lie to preserve the version of ourselves we want to be. And here's a secret most people don't realize. Every time you do this, it strengthens a mental pattern. Your brain starts defaulting to these protective lies whenever it feels threatened. Pause for a moment and think about this. The lies people tell most often aren't aimed at others. They're aimed at themselves. Someone might say, "I'm okay," when they are not, because admitting the truth would force them to face uncomfortable feelings. Or they convince themselves they're confident in situations where they're really nervous. It's a self-defense mechanism that the brain prioritizes over honesty. And you'll notice this pattern everywhere, from workplaces to friendships, even in romantic relationships. For example, imagine a coworker who consistently says they're fine with a new project, but behind the scenes, they're overwhelmed. Or a friend who insists they're not jealous when you get attention from someone else, but deep down, they are. These lies aren't necessarily malicious. They're protective. And here's a critical insight. Noticing these patterns can change the way you react to others. Instead of feeling hurt or frustrated, understanding the brain's motivations makes interactions smoother and more empathetic. Let's consider habit. Lying is often learned. If, as a child, someone got in trouble for telling the truth, but avoided punishment by lying once, the brain remembers that strategy. Over time, this becomes a default behavior. Think about someone who constantly smooths over problems with small fibs to avoid arguments. Even as adults, this learned behavior persists. And here's something fascinating: every time we tell a protective lie, our brain experiences a small reward. We feel relief, and that reinforces the habit. So lying can literally become addictive in small doses. Here's another scenario. Imagine someone exaggerates their weekend stories to make friends laugh or seem more interesting. They might not even realize they're doing it. They believe their own version of events after a while. That's how identity protection and habit combine. And the retention loop here is simple: noticing these patterns in yourself or others, is like unlocking a secret code about human behavior. Stick around, because later we'll explore the single lie people tell most often, and why it's not aimed at anyone but themselves. You might be wondering, are some lies harmless? Absolutely. White lies, like saying, "I love this gift," when you don't, often keep social bonds intact. But even harmless lies reveal something about the brain. They show how strongly humans value safety, comfort, and acceptance over absolute honesty. Think of the last time you said something just to keep the peace. That tiny act is a window into your subconscious, and understanding it can help you respond more thoughtfully in future situations. Now, let's bring it closer to home. In relationships, people lie all the time, even unintentionally. A partner might say they're okay with a decision, but deep down, they have doubts. A friend might hide their true feelings about a conflict to avoid confrontation. And here's the retention insight: every lie, even small, changes how we interact with others, often without us realizing it. By the end of this video, you'll be able to spot these patterns and see them not as betrayal, but as brain-based strategies for survival. Here's a real life example that hits many of us. Imagine a person posting on social media about how happy and successful their life is. Behind the posts, they may be struggling, stressed, or lonely. Their online truth is a carefully curated lie, designed to protect identity, maintain social status, or avoid judgment. The psychology here is clear: we lie to protect how the world sees us and, sometimes more importantly, how we see ourselves. Finally, the most common lie people tell is not directed at others. It's directed at themselves. They convince themselves they're fine when they're not, confident when they're nervous, or in control when they're anxious. Recognizing this fact is liberating. It helps you understand behavior without judgment, and it encourages empathy. Next time you notice someone lying, or even yourself bending the truth, pause. Ask, is this a harmful lie or a protective mechanism? Understanding this subtle difference changes how you interact with people and how you perceive the world. In the end, understanding why people lie isn't about excusing dishonesty. It's about understanding the human mind. Every lie, small or large, tells a story about fear, identity, and habit. And once you notice these patterns, nothing about behavior seems random anymore. If you want to continue decoding human behavior, understanding the hidden psychology behind everyday actions, and seeing patterns that most people miss, make sure to subscribe to Behavior Decoded. Because once you understand the mind, you start seeing the world in a completely different way.